Hey, brewery or small business owner. At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. Are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best. Making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
Are you a brewer looking to open, grow, or plan your next move? I'm Ted Zeller, liquor law attorney at Norris McLaughlin. I've spent my career working with breweries, helping them navigate the regulations that come with this industry at the municipal, county, state, and federal levels. From first permits to expansion into new markets, my team serves as legal counsel on licensing, compliance, and distribution. If you're ready to plan your next move or need legal guidance, I am here to help. Feel free to call me at 484-765-2220 or email me at tzeller@norris-law.com.
And it's insane. Like, people died cutting ice so that we could have beer. Like, every now and then somebody fell in and died. And it's like, we're just doing this just to get drunk. Like, again, it speaks to like how much they love this and how important it is to a society, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we would tolerate that today, but back then, like, they were like, yeah, I guess we'll keep making ice. Like, sorry. Like,
Well, you're in Denver. I mean, you could get ice if you needed it.
we not this year, but yeah, we could normally, but yeah. So the open fermentation is, I think it does have a practical application as well.
Welcome back to the BrewedAt podcast. This is your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello, episode 2 of our CBC special.
Yes, welcome. We're just getting started here in Philadelphia, but we welcome Eric Larkin from Cohesion, all the way from Denver.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here.
Glad to be here.
So like we said, we just want to like kind of hear, I guess, who you are. So I think people have heard of Cohesion.
Yeah.
Have you've come to some log jamming events?
Yeah, we were at Log Jamming 4 years of the 5. So I think we missed the first one, and then we got when it was in the parking lot, and then when it was at Cherry Street Beer, we did it every time. So yeah, I've come out here for Log Jamming a bunch. Great festival.
And Cohesion, a very cool, new-ish, like 5 years old.
We're gonna be 5 in August. Yeah.
Newish brewery in Denver that is a strictly Czech-style brewery.
Yep, we make Czech-style lagers. That's it. We have a couple guest taps if somebody walks in and wants an IPA, but what we're producing is Czech-style beer, and that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you have a rich history of like your brewing history. Can we just start off with like kind of introduction to who you are?
Yeah.
Now you got to starting Cohesion.
Yeah, so I've been brewing professionally since about 2011. Started in Vermont. I went to college there, fell in love with craft beer. Got my start at a small little brew pub. Worked there for about 9 months, and then was looking to work full time.
So that's American Flatbread?
American Flatbread, yeah.
So American Flatbread, if you don't know, is a awesome pizza place.
Yes.
It's a brew pub that is like historically known for craft beer in the U.S.
Yeah.
And spun off then Zero Gravity.
Yep. So it was called Zero Gravity when it was when I was there.
Okay.
It was Zero Gravity.
It was Zero Gravity.
American Flatbread.
Cool.
They've now rebranded it to Mothership Brewing. So
Okay.
Zero Gravity is kind of separated from Flatbread, and now it's its own thing, and it's huge. I mean, it's regional. They're crushing it. But,
Yeah.
Zero Gravity was the pub. Now is bigger, and now it's Mothership is the pub. So
Awesome.
that was with Destiny Saxon and Paul Saylor, both still friends of mine, but great mentors. I mean, Paul's been in the brewing industry since the 90s. I mean, he's opened and closed breweries people have never heard of. So he's been doing this a long time. Really, I mean, got me started with classic styles. Like when I started working there, they had about 20 taps, and 10 of the taps would be their version of the classic style that they had on the other tower. So they would make a smoked lager and put Schlenkerla on the other side. So
That's
you
cool.
could go and be like, look, we can make something that's similar. So we definitely started out with a classic approach. And it was a really cool place to kind of learn. Going from home brewing to professional brewing is quite different. And it was a really cool environment to learn in and see that. And I was in the American Brewers Guild at the time while I was there. So it was a long line to get in back then. But if you were working at a brewery, you could kind of get into classes a little sooner. So it was great to have all that practical experience while I was learning all the technical and engineering information. So, yeah. So I was there for about 9 months. It was great time to be there and learn.
Also, an amazing time to be in craft beer in New England.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah, it was crazy. 2011, 2012 was a different era. And then I moved on to Allagash Brewing. And that was, working at Allagash from 2012 to 2015 was incredible.
Well, what was it like? I imagine it was still kind of a national brand, already a national brand at that point?
So we were about 40,000 barrels a year. They had pulled back from a couple states. So they were in like 20 or 25 states.
Yeah.
Realized they wanted to kind of consolidate their market, go deep in markets rather than try and hit a bunch of them with a little bit of beer. So they had pulled back, but we were growing about 15,000 barrels a year. So when I worked there, we went from about 40,000 barrels to about 70,000 barrels, 80,000 barrels in 3 years. It was nuts. Wow. Yeah. Again, amazing learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I was brewing. We rotated shifts. You would do different jobs every week. So if you were on the brew deck, you were mashing in 3 to 4 times in a 10-hour shift.
Wow.
So we were brewing about 42 to 45 times a week when I started.
I imagine like 90% of that is Allagash White.
Yeah. Yeah, on the schedule, I think of the 45, basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, most of Thursday was white. And then Thursday they would shift into the other beers. So it would be Saison, or they had black back then, it went interlude, random stuff. And the cool ship stuff was only like once a month, obviously, even or every 2 weeks, maybe even in the winter.
Yeah.
But that's what I went there to work for. Like I was obsessed with the lambic, spontaneous. I loved the story that Rob Todd, was, they were talking, they'd been and visited, they'd seen this lambic culture, and Rob Todd one day is just like, fuck it, let's get a cool ship and figure this out, right? Like no one in America was really doing this.
Yeah.
Russian River a little bit, but I was in love with that style of beer, that culture, and that's what got me there. I had actually never had Allagash White before I worked
No way.
there. So, yeah, I learned about that beer, and now I love that beer. That beer is amazing to me, and I got to know it very well. So, it was a really cool experience to like go in for one thing and then be like, wait, this is such a small part of what they do, and see such a great company. Like for founding Cohesion, it was really influential to see the way they run that company, the way they treat their employees. And even when you're growing that fast, it's hard to do. So much is happening so fast, but they still really took care of us and really wanted to build a good company that did good in the local communities, like helped people out and was making the best possible beer. And the quality standards there are second to none. You can't get better than what they're doing. And it was really, again, influential to learn in that environment. So.
Yeah, if you're making that much of one beer consistently, that's sending out all over their, I just probably internationally at this point.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit. Yeah,
pretty strict.
Yeah, we were doing sensory twice a week on it, and we had sensory training once a month. You had to train for like 6 months before you could even join the sensory panel. Like it was dialed. It was really, really cool to do, and they would try and trick us on sensory panels. So you would just get 3 Allagash Whites most times, and every batch was tasted before it was released. It did not leave the warehouse until it passed panel. That was the last step. But sometimes they would put a spike in there, and very low, just to see, like, okay, can our panel handle this? Like, how good are we? Like, testing ourselves, right? Like, just seeing, again, that attention to detail, that level, that approach, like, was really, I wouldn't have started a brewery on my own if I hadn't had that experience. Like, it was so important to see how it works and absorb all of that. So,
what was the biggest difference between going from the spot in Vermont then to Allagash?
Oh, it was the pace of work.
That's crazy.
At Zero Gravity, we were brewing once a week, like twice a week was a busy week.
Yeah.
So the pace was just insane. At Allagash, there were times where we were cleaning, like emptying a tank, and that tank was, the brew that was going to go in that tank was already mashed in. And you're like centrifuging it out. And so if something goes wrong, if there's 30 minutes of a hiccup, like the whole thing is screwed. So the training was like, you need to be able to clean and sanitize a tank in an hour and a half. That was part of the SOP. Like, if you couldn't get it done in an hour and a half, that wasn't good enough. Like, we need to know that we can turn this that way, right?
Yeah.
Whereas at a brew pub, it's a much slower pace. Like, you get more time to kind of think about the recipes, and you're also making something different every time. So we would spend hours sitting down just talking about the recipe, talking about the ingredients, talking about the process. Whereas at Allagash, it's like, nope, do it.
Yeah.
Go, right? And also growing 15,000 barrels a year, like you're adding so much capacity. We're always adding new tanks.
Like learning
adding
how
new
to add
equipment.
CapEx, like all that is a lot different than just
Yeah.
a brew pub system.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't involved in any of that at Allagash.
But you're
I was,
seeing it.
Yeah. I was just a brewer. I was
Yeah.
one of 20 brewers. Like, it was just go. Like, go. So
Yeah.
I think every brewer should try to work at a large brewery at some point, because you just get so many more reps in. You get four times as much many brews in the same amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. It really was, the repetition was really helpful. But yeah, it was just the pace. And like, I mean, it's shift work. Like, I showed up at 5 o'clock every morning, and I had to have my boots on the floor, ready to take over for somebody at 5, because somebody had been working overnight.
Yeah.
So like, they were ready to get out of there. And if you're there at 5:15, that guy's pissed. Like, he wants to go home and sleep. Like, so it's just this like ritual and the shift work of it. Sometimes it can get monotonous. Now owning a business, sometimes I miss that. I miss being able to make my work, hit my specs, and go home.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist anymore for me. And for a lot of small brewers, right? People who are in this brewer owner
Yeah, but then when you're
situation.
doing that, you're thinking like, oh, I just want to like.
Exactly. Yeah, I would like 2 weeks of just like making work sometimes and like not thinking about anything, like not paying excise taxes and sales taxes and dealing with employees and like all that, all the fun stuff. So
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah,
So you were at Allagash, and then you moved to Denver.
yep. So
Work at Odd 13.
Odd 13. Yep.
Okay.
So I was there for about 3.5 years. Again, great place to work.
At Allagash?
At Allagash.
Okay.
Yeah. Great place to work. I wanted more brewing responsibility, and like to this day, there was a brewer from Allagash, a younger one, who came in to Cohesion recently, and I was talking to her, and I'm like, "Is so and so still there? Is so and so still there? Is so and so still there?" And I went 10 people deep, and they're all still there.
Wow.
It's such a great company. 10 years later, they still haven't left.
Wow.
And so it can be hard to bite off a piece of the pie for like more brewing stuff, but they were also so busy. Like, they didn't have time to talk to this 20-year-old kid about like more beer stuff. Like, we need to make Allagash White, right? Like, so it was definitely it was a bittersweet thing for me to move on, but I wanted more responsibility, and
You have to remove yourself to kind of grow personally.
yeah. So at Odd 13, I was the director of operations. So we were putting in a production facility. So they had just gotten into like hazy IPA right before I got there. They made their first one, and they were one of the first people to make it in Colorado. So I was working with who I now call my beer wife, Brandon Bolt. So he has Primitive Beer, and so we've traveled to beer together. We've been to Belgium together. Like, we see beer very similarly, and it was a wonderful time again to learn how to build a brewery. So he had the tap room, and I was hired to build the production facility. So the owner said, we have a 30-barrel brew house already bought. We have like a walk-in cooler and 2 tanks purchased. Make beer, and I want to be able to make 10 to 15,000 barrels a year of beer. And I said, okay, I think I can do this. Like, again, I saw pretty big production, so we'll try and put this together. So I built a brewery. We started making a ton of hazy IPA. That's what we were known for. I did not know how to make hazy IPA. It was incredibly controversial. We had a lot of people in Colorado were like, fuck this. Like, you guys don't know what you're doing. Like, you're only making it this way because you don't know how to brew. I mean, there were people in the newspaper, other brewers, saying like, the only reason that they're turning out this way is because these are inexperienced brewers. And I was like, who are you? Like, I mean, I'd gotten so many reps at Allagash. Like, I knew what I was doing, but it definitely was a new process.
So it's not like Allagash White is like made not how you're supposed to. It's basically the same thing as IPA.
Yeah, I mean, it's another unfiltered beer. Like, we were definitely trying to replicate. Like, there was times where we were approaching the cell count as the haze factor in our hazy IPAs the same way we did with Allagash White. Like that was my approach. And like, we didn't quite have the same technology and we didn't have the same people to help dial it in, but that was the goal, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I made mostly hazy IPA for 3 or 4 years, and then the business just didn't go where he wanted it to. Like we kind of capped out at like 2,000 or 3,000 barrels, and it was getting stressful for me to like feel that pressure. Like the owner definitely was feeling the pressure, and so it had trickled down. And after about 4 years, I knew I wanted to move on and do something different. But again, I had learned so much about building a brewery. So there I had to put together the walk-in cooler. I had to put together the boiler. I had to replace a boiler. I had to hire steam fitting contractors. Like I didn't know how to do any of that, but I had to figure it out. So now I've got a ton of production experience and I've built a brewery, and those two things really helped me feel confident that I could potentially open.
So like a pathway, like, I can do this.
Yeah, but so I had told my wife when we lived in Maine, I don't ever want to open a brewery. I don't think I'm ever going to open a brewery, but that was because I didn't think I would ever come up with an idea that made sense. Like I knew even 2015, 2016, like you can't just open a brewery. Like there has to be these days, especially more and more.
Especially, yeah.
You have to have a story and a reason and a purpose. You can't just be like Bob's Brewery that wants to hang out and support the community. Like we all want to do that. And that's great. I believe in that, but it doesn't work. Like business wise, it's not going to catch people. Like you have to have something that makes you stand out. So in my mind, I was like, I'll never have that idea, or I don't have it right now, of what it is and what's going to make it stand out. So my wife and I went on our honeymoon. We started in Prague in Czech Republic. And at that time, I was really getting into lagers like most brewers were, right? And even as making a lot of hazies, I wanted to drink lagers and I wanted to make lagers. And I was trying to convince the owner, like, let's make lager. And he's like, yeah, but I can turn IPA 3 times in the time we can make that lager. Like, no, we're not making lagers. So I very rarely got to do it. I really only brewed 2 lagers before I opened Cohesion, which is still kind of crazy to me. But I was, again, drinking a lot of them and talking about them with my friends and stuff like that. So we go to Prague. I taste Pilsner Urquell the first day we're there, and it blows my mind. I mean, it's nothing like what the Czech Pilsners that were being made in America, right? I had this representation in my head. I'd been drinking them. People are sharing them with me, and we're not even close. Like, I drink Pilsner Urquell, and I'm like, there are so many things about this beer that don't exist in the American lager versions of Czech Pilsner. And so that was in October of 2018, and I basically spent that winter, like, researching anything I could about Czech lager. I was digging in the internet. I found beer blogs from 1990. Like, I was going deep.
Who was making it in the U.S. in 1990?
No, so this was a British guy, Ron Pattinson.
Okay.
So he's like a British beer writer.
Yeah.
And apparently he lived in the Czech Republic, and he made these janky-ass websites that were really valuable, though, because he was breaking down Czech beer styles. So he basically, like, kind of blogged his life as a beer nerd in Czech in the, like, 1990s. And so he had all this information about the styles and the techniques and the breweries and what they did. And Evan Rail wrote a book that was the beer guide to Prague, and that had a lot of information, but it's from the 90s. Like, there was just not a lot of current information. So it was hard to find information that really led me to, like, okay, what is it that we're not doing? Like, what are the techniques that I think that American brewers aren't doing to make it taste like it is over there? So I spent that winter kind of figuring that out. Went to CBC in Denver, and basically had a lot of conversations that, like, led me to believe that I could do it. Like, I could open a lager brewery, and I would be successful, and I would be capable of doing it. And so I had my wife at this point. The only thing that she thinks is that I'm never going to open a brewery. I'm interested in leaving my brewery, but we're not going to open one. So I'm just kind of whatever. So I don't. Typically, when I go to CBC, like, I'm so busy, we really don't talk that much. So we didn't talk at all during this conference. I was so busy. I was going to the trade show at 8 a.m. and I was partying until 2 a.m. Like, so I'm leaving we live like 30 minutes north at that time of Denver. So I'm leaving the conference center, and I call her in the cab, and I'm like, hey, we're going to open a brewery. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, conference was great. we're opening a brewery. And she's like, okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, when you sober up, let's talk about this.
Yeah, but yeah, we sat down and looked at it, and we were the first brewery in the U.S. to exclusively focus on Czech-style lagers, and it's such a rich beer tradition. They drink the most beer per capita in the world. They invented the Pilsner style. Pale lager, 70% of what's drunk today around the world started in Pilsen. That's who got it going, and we don't talk about it. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that is, and I wanted to break that down. Like, I wanted to create a place that if you went in, if you've been to the Czech Republic, or if you're Czech, you can say, this place feels like the Czech Republic, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to have some Americanization to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But the best compliment that I can get is if a Czech person comes in and they're like, this feels like home. Like, that's my ultimate goal. And there are Czech people that come in that don't like what we're doing. And that is fine, because they're so opinionated in particular about how they want it done, that what we're doing to them is not the way that they saw it in Czech Republic. So,
but you need people that strong of opinion.
Exactly.
That means they're passionate.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. So that's really what we've set out to do. And we have 3 classic styles that we brew all the time, and then we have 3 rotators that are definitely more off the wall. Sometimes it's a more obscure classic style, but sometimes it's a dry hopped pale lager. Like, and that's not like a classic thing in Czech. But there are a lot of Czech breweries who are now making modern styles, IPAs, hazies, fruited sours. Like, you see that in craft breweries, but all of them, even the small craft breweries, they still make a 12-degree pale lager, which is kind of the Pilsner Urquell style. So, but yeah, that's kind of been our goal, is to from the pouring, from the production, from the ingredients, try and deliver an experience that people might have to go to Prague to get close to. And I'm not saying I make beer that's as good as Pilsner Urquell or breweries there, but I just want to represent it in a way that people can feel something different and feel like they're in a different place.
Was kind of like the defining quality of that was the decoction, that when you're doing your research, like, this is like, we need to kind of, this is the focus in the brew house.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of, I have 7 things that I've like broken down that I think are the things, and decoction is one of them, right? And
you go through the rest of them? Or?
Yeah, so it's water, okay. It's the grain.
Yeah.
Like, I think the grain that we were getting here was not the same specs as what you get in Czech Republic. Decoction is one of them.
The grain, do you guys use your own personal grain?
We have a custom base malt that we built with Troubadour Malting, who's about an hour north of us in Fort Collins.
And what is that? Is it just like a Pilsner malt that's like less or more modified?
Yep. So they don't have floor malting capabilities, so but we knew we wanted to seek out a little bit of under modification. So it's under modified, but in a different way. We kind of go low.
Just because the decoction is like so intense that like you're going to get that.
The under modification with this was more to what it really does is allows for decoction to take a bigger effect on the color and flavor of the grain in the brew house. Okay. So decoction to me is a very important piece. It's not the end all be all, but it is an important piece.
Yeah,
and it adds depth of grain flavor. So the more you decoct by volume, by time, by number, whatever, you're adding intensity of grain flavor. And that's one of the things that was really missing from the American versions. Like, I think we were going for incredibly dry. Like, I talked to brewers and they're like, oh, my Czech lager finishes at 1.5. And I'm like, and there's a guy who, he's out of Seattle. He's gone over there with a density meter and measured, and they're not finishing at 1.5. Like, it's 2.5, 3 sometimes on these 12-degree starting gravity lagers. Like, they have sugar and body, which is malt sweetness and malt character. So you have to, there's a lot of ways to approach that, from the yeast selection to the malt character. But if you have malt that just finishes dry and you're using a German yeast, it's really a different approach. It's a different beer. So the malts that I wanted to use weren't available in the U.S. The Weyermann floor malted Bohemian Pilsner is a great malt. It's made at Ferdinand Brewery in the Czech Republic. But their beers are more, to me, a little more German leaning. They have a little lighter color, a little lighter body. They finish a little drier. So it makes sense that the German maltster picked up their malt, because it feels more like that way. So most of the maltsters weren't distributing, so I knew we needed to create something that had a little more color, slightly under modified. I like ours has higher protein, which I like. I think we get more flavor out of that. We get a little more foam stability out of that, which is obviously important with the pouring. So that was kind of all together selecting a grain. But yeah, the grain, the water's obviously part of it. The grain was the next one. Decoction is the next step. I think it's really important. The thing I tell people, I've had a couple tours of Pilsner Urquell with the brewmaster emeritus, and I asked him once, do you think you can make Czech lager without making a decoction? And he said no. So we're going to decoct, right? Again, I'm here to represent what they do.
Yeah.
So I asked them, do you think you have to do it? And there's one brewer I've talked to who says no, but 99% of them have said yes. Like, this is an important part of our culture, of the way we make beer, the way we make lager. So I do it. Like, again, it's not up to me. Like, I'm trying to represent someone else. I'm not Czech. I have no Czech heritage. I have no family connection to it. I'm just trying to do my best to represent that beer culture and share my love of it with other people. So, so next is the open fermentation. That's definitely not as common of a technique.
You guys open ferment everything?
Everything, yep. So that's
how big is your brew house?
a 15 barrel.
I've never seen a 15 barrel like open fermenter.
Oh, the ones in the industrial breweries in Czech.
You guys have to get them custom built. Like, how many other people have? I don't know if I've ever seen those.
Sierra Nevada has a few. Zillicoa in North Carolina, they have some open fermentation. It's not very common. There's like
I've seen like I know
Notch
has a large one, but I haven't seen 15 barrel open.
Yep. So yeah, Notch has one.
Down for me, like what that.
There's no top. It's just like the beer is just sitting there.
Yeah. So so typically today we use cylinder conical vessels, right? That's the ones you've seen, cylinder, cone at the bottom to collect the yeast. Open fermenters in Czech, when they were built in cellars. So they have a lot of soft rock so they could build in cellars. This is before we had refrigeration, right?
Yeah.
It's part of what I love about this is you get history involved in it too, right? If you go back to 1842 when all this started with Pilsner Urquell, they don't know what yeast is yet. Like, they don't have refrigeration yet. They don't have steam boilers yet. Like, it's a very different world, a very different way to make beer. So part of what I like about sharing that tradition is talking about the history, talking about these techniques that have fallen out of favor in some ways and, existed here in the U.S. in very small amounts, but were very common there. So open fermentation in a cellar would have been common there. So I use glycol jacketing, but they would basically build into these cellars. They're probably, some of the rooms are 30 feet tall, and the tank, it's not a tank, it's just an open vat. It's just like a concrete form of a rectangle that's lined with epoxy, and now they put glycol tubes like in the middle, right? Because they had to retrofit after building these concrete blocks. When they had glycol capable, they couldn't add it into the walls, so they had to put it in the middle in tubes. What they used to do was and Pilsner Urquell still has this room. They had ice caves, basically. So there's an opening in the top. You're going down again about 30 feet, and there's an opening in the top. And all winter, somebody is out on the lake cutting ice, delivering it to the brewery, and putting it in there. And then you would chop off some ice. You'd have a metal ball. You'd put the ice in, and you'd put that ball in that open fermenter, and that's how you control fermentation temperatures, right?
Oh my god!
So like again, it's I don't do any of that, but because I have an open fermenter, we can talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Like we can talk about these techniques, and like I mean, there's a really great book called Lager: A Short History. I forget the author's name right now. It's got a red cover. He's a British author, and he has like figures on the amount of ice that they were cutting down to make lager, like back in the early or late 1800s, early 1900s, and it's insane. Like people died cutting ice so that we could have beer. Like every now and then somebody fell in and died, and it's like we're just doing this just to get drunk. Like again, it speaks to like how much they love this and how important it is to a society, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if we would tolerate that today, but back then, like they were like, yeah, I guess we'll keep making ice. Like, sorry, like.
Well, you're in Denver. I mean, you could get ice if you needed it.
we not this year, but yeah, we could normally, but yeah. So the open fermentation is, I think it does have a practical application as well.
How and it's just in your brew house? Or do you put like mesh over top there?
So I have a room that is kind of like a clean room, HEPA filter, positive pressure room.
Cool.
It has its own AC or like HVAC unit.
Yeah.
Breweries like Notch, Sacred Profane, they do open fermentation about the same size.
No idea.
And theirs is just out in the brew house. They have a metal top that sits on it at all times.
Okay.
So they'll open it up to pitch, but leave it covered most of the time. So the residence time is pretty small in these tanks. It's only 5-6 days. But the majority of your yeast-derived compounds, esters and phenols, are happening, day 2, day 3. So the shape of that tank really captures that early on in the process. So,
and then you're transferring into a lagering tank?
Yeah.
Cool.
So we transfer it. So that's the next step would be lagering, the horizontal lagering.
Okay.
That's also, I would say it's more popular than open fermentation today in Czech. But there are breweries who are lagering in cylinder conicals in tall tanks, making great beer. Unyatice is one that people who have been to Czech would know, and their beers are open fermented, but then moved into a cylinder conical tall tank for lagering. So the lagering, it comes from, again, how they used to do it, right? It was in wooden barrels, and we couldn't really build up, but we could stack wooden barrels that laid long ways in a cellar. So that lagering tank, that when it was made metal, was just meant to kind of replicate that size and shape. Also still think it has practical purposes, but we have technology, obviously, that can get us to not need to use that anymore, right? So we've got filtration, we've got centrifuges, we've got all this stuff that back then they didn't have. They needed to just wait for it to settle, right? They just had to let time move the yeast down and clarify the beer. So the shorter distance it has to go, the little bit quicker you can get it off the yeast and get clear beer out to your customers, right? So we do it also because it's a visual thing. So if you walk in our tap room, our brew house is a half wall, but you can see the brew house, and the lager tanks are right there. So from half of the tap room, you can see the lager tanks. And customers these days, especially craft beer customers, they think of lager tanks. Oh, that's a lager. I know we're in a lager place. So there is a message to it as well. It's I think it's practical in some ways. It's very impractical in others, but it's about representing, again, this culture and being able to talk about what it used to look like. So So the lagering is a part of it. The spunding is a big part of it. The natural carbonation, that's something that every brewery that I've been to still does. So at lager temperatures, you can set a pressure temperature ratio to force CO2 into solution from the yeast as opposed to adding it. And that it's a smaller, finer bubble. And it's just a different type of carbonation.
I don't know why every brewery in the U.S. does not spund. It's just free carbonation that you're not paying for, and it tastes better.
Yeah,
I think, doesn't matter if it's lager or not. I
think with ales, your pressures are getting above the rating that most tanks will certify.
Yeah.
So in the U.S., when manufacturers, or for the U.S. market, because it's exported or other countries too, they certify the tanks to 1 bar, which is 15 psi.
Yeah.
They test it to 2 bar, which is 30, but if you're setting it above 15 and something happens, you wouldn't be covered. Yep.
Yeah.
So in Europe, most of the tanks are built to 2 bar and tested to higher. So they're certified to 2 bar. So with ales, you need to spund, you would need to get, because the temperature is higher, the pressure has to be higher to force the same amount of carbonation into solution.
Yeah.
So you'd have to get into like the 20 to 25 range sometimes, and that sketches a lot of people out, myself included. So I don't get my tanks above 15.
Are you not force carbonating at all?
No, I don't. Everything is spunded.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is naturally carbonated. So, and that, again, that's how I've seen it done there. And I think it changes the beer. I think it's better for the mouthfeel and the smoothness, and there's lots of benefits to it. Plus, you don't have to buy carbonation.
Yeah.
There's also studies that show most of the carbonation, CO2, is made at ethanol plants, and they don't care what it tastes like or any other compounds it might carry. And so there are triangle tests that show very trained tasters do prefer naturally carbonated beers from a flavor perspective versus forced carbonated beers. In lighter beers, I make a 10-degree pale lager that's 3.7% alcohol, that could come through. It's unlikely, but why would I take the risk and use forced carbonation?
I can't tell the difference. When you just give me a forced carbonated beer, I can't really tell the difference. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But when I have a spunded beer, and I taste them, this tastes really good. I can taste the difference, but I can't taste the difference between a not good and forced carbonated.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. No, totally. I think it has an impact, but you're absolutely right. Does the average customer even know or tell a difference?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I know that it's delivering something that I want, and again, it's also the tradition that is there. So
yeah. And all these little things you keep saying, there's other ways to do it, but you've now listed 9 things.
Yeah.
And all these 9 things stacked together.
Yep. Yeah, and and I steal this from Ashley from Bierstadt all the time. She said it, and it's very true. There are thousands of choices that we make as brewers to make beer the way that it is. And with lager, it's not any one thing. It's not just decoction. It's not just spunding. It's all of these choices that I make that make the beer what it is. And they all have an impact. Some are smaller, some are bigger, but it's really about knowing every step. And I feel like brewers in particular, we sometimes get fixated on one step and one thing, and it can be a lot broader than that. So, yeah. And then the last thing is the service. So the service is really an important part of the Czech beer tradition, and we try to emulate that as well with the Lukr taps and the different pour styles and all of that. But
I think that translates pretty well into like the event you got going on during CBC right now.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, it's going to be over.
Yeah.
But would love to just like explain kind of what like you're focusing on, and like exactly that is the service.
Yeah. So we worked with some Czech tapsters at a pub called Lokal. They have a couple different types of pubs, but their Lokal to me is the top service you can get for beer in the Czech Republic. It was the first place I had Pilsner Kel, and I thought that everyone was like that, and I've learned that there are levels to it. And but Lokal is really holding a high standard of quality of beer, cleanliness of everything, and quality of pouring and training of pouring, right? They really, really are focused and fixated on it. And so we work with them to basically create a Czech hospoda or a pub somewhere in the U.S., right? We can't change the environs, we can't change the feel of it, but we can put on some Lukr taps, we can have mugs that are in an ice-cold bath before they're filled, they're hand cleaned like they are in most bars in Czech, poured properly with the right amount of foam, this wet, dense foam, and served as they would be in a Czech hospoda. So the goal is that people can get, a little bit better feel for what it might be like if you were in a pub over there and you ordered a beer. So we normally, a lot of the places, it's changing a little bit, but the traditional places really would only have 2 beers on tap. So we're differentiating a little bit. We have 5 American Czech-style lagers and 5 lagers from the Czech Republic. So we have 10 different beers that you can try poured that way with the right mug in the right person and someone whose job it is to do that in the Czech Republic. So it's a really cool event for people to experience. You can get a mliko and do the mliko chug, the schnit, which is the kind of shorter pour, slice pour, and then just a regular standard pour. But it changes the beer. I mean, that faucet really does change the way the beer feels in your mouth and feels from the flavor perspective. And drinking foam is something that's really foreign to people, but normal in Czech Republic. You get served a beer with 4 fingers of foam with no hesitation. That's the norm. Like,
gotta have a strong head.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a really cool event. They're really great people to work with. Highly recommend if anyone's traveling to Prague, Pilsen, Brno, check out Lokal, Lokal. Great pubs. Really, really cool atmosphere and environment.
The idea of like the tapster and like them taking that much care into it, it almost makes the bartender a part of the production staff.
Yes.
And I know a lot of good breweries and like beer bars when the bartender is the front of the brewery. Like the customers don't see the production brewers as the face. They see the bartenders as the face.
Yeah.
And when you make the bartenders have that sort of responsibility and then they're part of the process also, I think that they then take more pride in it. It makes like the presentation better. It kind of like not just the flavor, but then also like, your whole experience is better.
And that's what we try to emulate at Cohesion too. Like we get comments that our staff is really educated. And I'm like, yeah, that's important to me. Like it has to be a part of it. But there's also a phrase in Czech, they say the brewer brews the beer, but the tapster makes the beer. And it's a total different shift from the US where if I went to a bar here and I had a beer and the beer wasn't very good, my first thought is, oh, the brewer made a mistake or the brewer made a bad beer. In Czech, they would go to a bar, have a beer, and be like, no, the publican, the tapster, the people who run the bar made the mistake. Like the brewer wouldn't make a mistake. It has to be this place, right? Yeah. And it puts a different emphasis on the publicans to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
And like the cleanliness, I took one class where we watched the tank beer delivery. So from 6 a.m, the tanker showed up. They filled these tanks with beer, and then they served from those tanks. So it's coming directly from the brewery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
so this
crazy.
is what Sacred Profane has the same system in Biddeford. They're the only one in the U.S.
They have like
that
the
has
tanks
that.
above the bar, right?
Exactly. So those are filled with beer. So we're there from 6 a.m. till about 1 p.m. with seeing all of the setup. But we probably spent 3 hours cleaning. Like We clean the lines, we clean the couplers, we clean the taps. I mean, these taps have 40, 50 pieces to them. Every single piece, underwater scrub, move on. Underwater scrub, and there's 6 of them. So it's like, but it was to emphasize, like, everything that touches the beer has to be clean. And they really believe that. And like, that is not the same standard we have in the U.S.
Yeah.
There are places that achieve that standard and that have elevated, but there are a lot of really shitty lines out there. Really not well taken care of beer, right? And we all know this.
Yeah.
We go to some places and you don't order the draft beer, right? I mean, and that's just not the standard in the Czech
They forget
Republic.
about it elevating your drinking experience. There's a lot of places they go like, this is destroying my drinking experience.
Exactly. And that's, again, it's a sense of pride about it that is just different. And it's something that we want to bring here and like have people see, because I think you can feel it when you see them working and pouring. You don't see the cleaning, obviously, but you can feel that there's a different care and attention to it than, again, there are places in the U.S. that are just as good, but it's much more common there to have that level of care across the board.
And it's cool that places like you are bringing that over, because now it's like showing bars in the U.S. They're like, hey, you can do this, and it will elevate your experience. So really, like, you're kind of rubbing off on other people.
Oh, it's for sure, it's worth it. And like the Lucre pouring, so we're doing pouring classes as well, and Lucre is doing pouring classes across the country now. So we have some pouring classes associated with this event too, where the locale tapsters are training people how to pour. And one of the things that the Lucre classes have happened in other cities, and I visited those cities afterwards, and like the mug in the ice bath. So that's a thing that they do in a lot of the higher end bars. It's not every bar in Czech, but a lot of the bars will have a mug in a cold water bath before you serve it. And so I now go, like, I went to my buddy's brewery in Atlanta, and before his Czech lagers, he would just get the mug and serve it. And now he has a little tub that's full of ice water all day, and there are like 8 mugs sitting in there for if you order a Czech beer, right? That's all it's for. And he's like, yeah, it made such a difference. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, that's why we do it at Cohesion. Like, it's just this little attention to detail. It's one of the 1,000 things that makes this experience different and unique and is fun to share with people. Like, and, back to the reason I didn't want to open a brewery. All that stuff also makes it appealing to people, right? Like, beer should be fun, and I also like to have an educated beer experience personally. And so trying to find that balance, offering something new, interesting, while also just being a fun place to hang out, like, that's really what I think we need more of in this industry. And it's you can still be successful, opening a brewery today if you're doing that. And it's nice. I want to see more of that out there, so I'm trying to do that at our spot.
Cool. Well, thank you.
It's fantastic.
I think that is all of our time.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you have a busy week with CBC.
Yeah. No,
It's just really fun conversation.
anybody lets me talk about Czech lager, I'm always down. So thank you guys for
We appreciate
giving me
it.
space. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess
Where to
that's
find
it.
you?
Yeah. Where do we find you? At Cohesion Beer?
Cohesion Beer on social and our website. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're only in Denver, Colorado. We're going to start sending a little more beer out to New York City, probably later this year.
Any specific accounts that you have out there?
Yeah. We work with a couple. I know Gold Star Beer Counter is taking it on a lot. We've been at I think it's Owl Farm. We've been at As Is, a couple other places, but yeah, we've added a little bit of capacity, so we're kind of going to send some beer out to, I think, markets that it works in, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've got New York City and Atlanta, and then I have a third market I'm kind of deciding on, but that'll start happening a little bit more this year. So people on the East
Let's go to
Coast,
Philadelphia. How about that?
people on the East Coast might see it a little more if they're out and about, but mostly it's in Denver. We're a tiny little brewery, so.
Awesome. And then you can find us at BrewedAt, at the BrewedAt podcast. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.